Hello, and welcome to Crafting for Profit Live. We're on episode 15, and today we're going to talk about starting a craft business after retirement. So many of you had questions about this. So, we got an expert here to answer all of those questions for you. Now, if you are joining us on the live YouTube, you can ask questions in the live, but we won't pull those till the end. So, we'll just pull relevant questions at the end. And if you have questions that aren't relevant, so questions that aren't about retirement, you can definitely ask those. We have below the video or in the podcast notes, we have a link to a form and you can fill out and basically ask us anything at all. And we occasionally do episodes and answer those. Now, as always, be sure to rate and review the podcast or share this episode with any of your friends. And if you're on YouTube, you can give us a thumbs up as well. All right, so now our fabulous expert speaker is Bette from Bette Makes, and Bette is a former business professor, and she turned to an international best-selling author and crafting professional. So, Bette, you want to introduce yourself?
Certainly. It's just really interesting because a lot of people after retirement, I think what the big thing is when I turned 65, of course, are you put out to the farm or can you still have brains in your head? And, that was sort of the biggest question. And for me, we started betsmakes.com with my daughter. 72 years old, believe it or not. And this is 5 years later. So I get 77 this year. And, just sort of that introduction is you don't lose your creativity just because you get older. You don't really lose anything except perhaps you have a little more time on your hands than you had before, but that fills up really quickly. Now, I hope I answered that just fine.
So, was there any particular reason that you were like, at 72, I want to start a craft business? Like, what was your motivation?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, when I was younger, I do crafts all the time. And as you can imagine, teaching at a university as a professor, that is a really busy time. You're teaching all these business skills, but you never really do a business of your own. So at 72, I'm looking at, okay, if I remove that paycheck and rely on just Social Security or old age pension or whatever pensions I had, will that cover everything that I want? And of course, it does not. Doesn't matter how much you save, you never have enough. So selling crafts was the first thing on the plate. Can I sell my crafts and make some extra money so that I can go travel and do all the other things that I want? So combining those two, my daughter and I decided, okay, let's start. We started a little business called Copious Crafts, and that is our little Shopify store. And initially, we sold physical products there. And then we decided, no, we can have more fun with crafting and do a lot of good for other people at the same time and then sell our wares. So at 72, I was able to increase the income enough that I could let go of my professorship and just look forward to really enjoying life and doing what I love at the same time. And of course, one of those things is interacting with my daughter on an everyday basis, discussing designs and doing things. It's like I never left work, but this time it is all about what I want to do. And I don't worry too much about paycheck to paycheck. I can just panic about other things.
That sounds so amazing. And I definitely forgot at the start of this episode to say that Corey is feeling under the weather, will not be joining us. So we're just going to send hugs to Corey for this week. So that sounds so amazing. And the fact that your daughter is involved with your business, like that just really touches my heart. So that is something like you're getting to express your creativity, make some money in retirement, and increase that bond and connection with your daughter as well.
Oh, for sure. And I have two daughters. One of them is like she was manager at Starbucks and she's back at university, all that. So she's really good at operations and documenting things. So in the way background, she helps us a little bit when we have to do systems. But my other daughter is just wonderful. She's the one with the four kids, my grandkids. So we actually get to create as a family. And it's just a whole family involvement. And, being close to family is so dear to my heart, and being able to talk to her either every day. I'm not too sure she likes the every day, but every second day or so, and come up with ideas of things we can do, get the excitement about it. And even though she's only 50 miles away, we can create things as we wish over the web. And we just share cameras and, oh, look what I made today, and look what I'm making today. Can we do a video with that? So you really get that sense of family when you start something like this, when you involve daughters. I don't have a son, so the two daughters, and of course, I let my husband participate, but he only keeps the books and tells me I'm spending too much on crafting supplies.
That is
But
worth it just for him to do the books. That's my
yep,
least favorite part of this whole thing.
mine too. I don't like doing that at all. And then there's a couple other things that I don't like. Some of the administrative stuff. I go, do I have to do this? So it's just like, put the blinders on. Okay. First thing in the morning, first half hour, do all the ugly things you don't want to do, and then go have fun for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. So we get a ton of questions on where to start. So what were your first steps, or what do you recommend for people in retirement that are going to like start this craft business?
Now, if you're going to start a craft business, you have to really find something that you really like to make. Don't worry about the audience on the other side who's going to buy it initially. You have to start with something you want to do, because if it's something you don't want to do, it's not going to work for you. So we started off, we liked making cards. So we thought, okay, that's a perfect way to do it. Do we want to make physical cards, or do we want to make digital ones? So our starting point was, let's do everything digital that we possibly can, and things that we like to make. And that was the first step, because the cost and the expense is a lot lower, other than the fact that you're going to be doing a lot of samples and all kinds of different things on making these particular cards. Then you can go ahead and sell your designs on Etsy. You can sell them off your own site. You can start a YouTube channel. All of these things are free. So you want to keep your costs to a big minimum initially. And then as you start working through and selling your designs on Etsy or off your own site, you start to build your list and that kind of thing, which is just a little further on. But just remember, the first step is only make the things you like to make. And the reason I say that is, you're not alone in this universe. Believe it or not, things you like to make, there is an audience for it. Now, a lot of people will tell you, go ahead and, figure who your avatar is, and then go figure out what they like, and then you make that. Well, I tipped it around the other way. We make what we like, then we go find people that like what we like, and build our audience that way. So you don't always have to follow those rules. What I taught at university, of course, is the other way around. And now I'm doing the entire opposite.
But it's still great advice, though. I feel like when you can find that perfect point where your passion meets something that will make a profit, that is the perfect point to start a craft business, because you are going to fail if you're not passionate at this. It's just too much work. Like, you have got to be passionate about this craft business in order to make it work. So finding that sweet spot where your passion does make you money that's the best of both worlds, right? You get to like going to work every day.
Well, exactly. And that's the whole big thing. I remember working for high tech in Silicon Valley. I worked for Cisco Systems, and I was training engineers. My PhD is computing science and software engineering. So I was teaching the engineers, and I'm going, oh, you sit in the drive and go, wow, what am I doing this for? Well, when you start your own thing, as long as you're passionate about it, you won't get that, wow, what am I doing this for? You'll get, oh, there's an idea. I could make this. Let's see if people like it. So it really changes the way that you do things as well, because as you said, Angie, it's that passion that you have for what you're doing is the catalyst. And if you're not passionate about it, after a year or so, you're going to go, ugh, that's enough for me. I mean, I've been doing this part of the business for the last 5 years, and I enjoy every single minute of it. I'm sitting here looking at all my stuff. Ooh, I could make this. I could make that. I see something in Angie's background. Ooh, that looks like a cool project. I'll go watch her video and let's see if we can build on that, saying where the original came from. And notice I'm saying where the original came from, because you don't want to steal other people's ideas either. But if you see something you like and you want to adjust it, always give the other person credit for, I got the original idea here, and this is my version of it. And I can't emphasize that enough. I have seen so many times when, and this happened to me a lot, I'll create some new design or something I've done in Illustrator or something, and I turn around and 6 or 7 other people I don't have taken my design and run it as their own. So that is an issue. So always make sure you credit someone, and you want to be crediting people, but you want other people to credit you as well. And I'll tell you, in this industry, what we do for each other and share helps us all rise to the top. If you start stealing stuff, boy, I'll tell you, the word will get around really quickly and people won't deal with you. So you have to remember those things as well. Are there original ideas out there? Sometimes. We all get them from somewhere, but a lot of them can come from your head as a culmination of different things that you've seen.
Yeah, Corey and I talk about the, collaboration over competition just about every episode. And you're right. This industry seems very large when you get started. You are thinking there are so many people on Etsy selling things, but it is very small once you get down to it. You will hear about, with people stealing designs, you will find out about it. And yes, that could be your pitfall if you're doing that. So we always talk about giving credit, changing the design, putting your mark on it. No one wants to buy the same thing that someone else is selling on Etsy. They want to buy from you. They want your personal spin on it, your personal take, something unique about it that makes it just you. And that ties into your brand story and how you got started and just makes your whole shop sort of cohesive and, you know, with everything that has your spin, your mark, your almost style on it. And all of a sudden your shop stands out from, everyone else. And like you said, you can give credit and all of a sudden you are collaborative. You're not, you know, we fall into this thing. We are staring at the competition and thinking, why am I not doing as good as them? Why? And you can just go down that rabbit hole. Whereas if you collaborate with people and lift each other up, then like you said, rising tide lifts all ships.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. And the collaboration thing really extends well. I mean, I could sit here and say, oh, why am I doing this? There's so many other people out there, just to mention a name, like, how come I can't do as well as Jennifer Maker, for example? But Jennifer and I talk to each other once in a while, and she helped me get started. So there is collaboration in behind there. She just had a different system and a way of doing things than what I did. I went one way, she went the other, but you learn from each other. And most of us, I would say 99%, love to share what works for us to help other people, get a leg up and get started. And, when we put on summits and that type of thing, we bring in speakers. Angie, you bring in speakers. I bring in speakers. I try to look for new people that have never been there before, just to give them the experience. But then we learn from each other, and it really makes a huge difference. There will always be those that won't, but there are tons and tons of crafters out there that would love to, share their ideas, and you should share yours as well. Now, that brings up a point. Yes, we're here to talk about business and how you're going to sell stuff, but trust me, the more you give away, the more you will sell. And that's sort of our motto behind that. We give away stuff every week, and we know that that helps people. And then when you're ready to go ahead, the more you share, the more you give away, it will turn out that oh, wow, people really like the stuff that I'm doing. So when I have something to sell, they're going to buy it because they're following you. They want to know what you're making. They want to know about your craft and your expertise. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. But, the more you share, the more you make. And it sounds counterintuitive. No, I should sell everything. No, you shouldn't. You should give away a ton, but then you'll make a ton right back.
So when you started, I do want to know this because when you're retired, you might be on a fixed income. So you said you started with very little money, but did you do any type of startup costs that you invested into your business? And did you have to get a loan or anything, or was it like self-funded?
This is an interesting one. It cost us zero startup costs because we decided to do digital. We did have monthly expenses, so we knew that we had to generate an income pretty quickly because it would be self-funded. But it was little things like Shopify. And when we started Shopify, it was $29 a month. And we got a Zoom account so we could do some videos. We downloaded OBS Studio, it's free. And we did a couple other things like, where are we going to host our videos? Well, YouTube is free, so we were able to do that. And then we had to pay for website hosting, and you can get some cheap hosting initially and then move up into a higher paid one that doesn't crash, and then start making your own web pages. So it's a lot of time initially versus money. You will spend money. We spent about $150 a month to start, which is not a lot of money. If you thought about a retail store, you realize that $150 a month is like nothing. So we made sure in the first month before we really got going with it that we had a product or two that we could sell. Well, we did our newbie's guide to Cricut design space, and it sold like hotcakes. So we didn't have to worry about it. Did we pay ourselves in the first little while? Not a chance. Not a chance. Don't think you're going to make a fortune right away because you're not going to pay yourself. But our startup costs were very low. We tried to keep it under $200 a month to start. And that way we knew when we were working with a budget that if we wanted something new, we knew we had to make more sales in order to pay for that new thing. So you want to keep your expenses low. Now, part of those expenses would have been like taking courses from other crafters, learning about their trade and what they're doing. When I first started, Jennifer had, I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, she had a little course on doing business, and she's taken it down and has got a brand new one now. I think it's called Advance or something. But anyway, that first one, and we thought, oh, how can we afford $49 for this course? It's just like panic sets in. But we did it, and we followed a lot of her rules. And that's how we started to learn and build from that point. Once we finished her course, we were able to make a few more sales. Then we would start another course on something else. And then 5 years later, we're building up to ones that our courses we take are more like coaching things, but we've got the income behind it now to pay for it. So you start paying more and more. You get the $297, you get the $497, then you get the $1,000 one. And you can work your way through it. But starting with a small budget is ideal because you're going to create everything digitally initially. And then if you sell the one Etsy, you're selling your design, not the thing. And I think that's a big difference too. If you're selling the thing, then you're going to have to price it appropriately and charge them shipping and handling no matter where you are. Now, I've worked in the States. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia right now. So if I ship something, Canada Post, right away, it's $26 shipping. That's just the way the postal system works here. Or I can go for 40 minutes, drive across the border, and mail it for $9 or $3 in the States. So, you can do different things like that back and forth. So you have to watch if it's physical, you're going to have to add those costs of shipping, and you have to worry about different taxes in different states for the places that you're going. So part and parcel of that, you want to make sure the systems you use will calculate the tax for you so you can remit it, or my husband You know, give him the accounting part, let him do all the remissions. And and then on the digital side, it's a little bit different. You still, in some states, you collect tax on it and give it to them, and then in some areas they don't worry about it so much. It's a digital item,
It is the
and you
most confusing thing ever. We all need a husband like yours because it is sales tax is the most confusing thing I've ever conquered in this business, I think. Like it is absolutely horrendous and each state has different rules like you said, different rules on what gets taxed and how much you have to sell to be taxed and it is just it has been the biggest challenge I think I've faced with it with growing the business. I feel like when you start out, it's just your location, right? So it's pretty simple and you get to know the rules. And as the business grows, it just gets more confusing, more confusing.
exactly just make sure you sell in Nevada or Oregon. They don't have any tax.
Yeah. Only people in these 2 states can purchase what I have.
Yeah, it's really funny how that works. Now I just have Shopify calculate it and remit it. And I think Stripe does the same thing. Stripe does their taxes. They'll remit it all for you. You don't even have to think about it. So, a couple little things.
Yeah, that's
So,
one reason we usually for people starting out, we say start on Etsy because they do that, right? It's super
yeah,
simple to set up and they just do it all for you and you don't have to worry about it. But once you grow and you're like, I want to make my own website, I want to make it pretty. And then you're like, oh boy, and I have to figure out how to add all these other things to it.
exactly. So you want to use those systems, like you say, Etsy. That's why I always push on Etsy because of the tax. And then Shopify now will do it as well if you want a little store in there, or if you use Stripe or Thrivecart. Thrivecart just pushes through to Stripe. They will remit it. I'm not too sure if PayPal does because I only use PayPal for some
Yeah,
things.
I am not sure.
Yeah. So, I try to let Stripe handle it all. It's just taxes will drive you nuts. Now, that's depending on, how many sales you're making, that kind of stuff. So, just things to think about. Don't panic about it. The whole idea here is get what you're passionate about and get started. I mean,
I
that is
like
the
yeah, I like what you said about starting with like how you started with 0 budget, similar to my story, and starting with just one thing. So starting with a course on one thing, concentrating on it, moving on to the next thing. And eventually you get to where sales tax you have to worry about it. But in the beginning, you just need to worry about, an Etsy course or something like that. And marketing, maybe marketing a marketing course, maybe something about social, and then you just slowly build up. And as your business grows, you can learn the next thing. And then it's a little less intimidating when you're learning one thing at a time rather than just jumping in and trying to learn it all at once.
yeah, and I used two places for my first stuff that I learned. I used Udemy and Skillshare. Yeah, Skillshare. And I still have a Skillshare account. Now, this sounds silly. About 4 years ago, I mean, I'd used Adobe products and Photoshop, but I didn't know Illustrator. But I realized I needed to know Illustrator. I went on Skillshare, followed Helen Bradley, and took all 170 of her courses on it. They were small, but learned a little bit at a time. Now I feel so comfortable with Illustrator. And that was through a Skillshare, and it was really inexpensive. It was like, I think when I joined, it was like $92 a year, which I panicked about at the time. But man, it was so worth it. So worth it.
I feel like all of those things, as long as you try to get your money out of it. So you mentioned Jennifer Maker's course and all of those courses, even if it's $29 in the beginning, it just feels like, oh my gosh, will I make this money back? But if you really concentrate, actually take the course, because I am the queen of purchasing the course and then not completing it. Like, I'm just going to be honest. If you actually complete the course, then you get your money out of it, right? Implement those things that they're recommending and actually get your money's worth out of all these courses that you invest in.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have a learning buddy, I have my daughter. So we get the course, we watch the first video, talk about, can we do any of this? How long will it take? And then we go into the next part. We kind of discuss it together, and that really helps. Now, my background also helps because doing a PhD is heads down. Let's get it done. Let's read that book because you are in a frenzy the whole time you're taking your PhD. I'll tell you, that is the heaviest thing I have ever taken in my life, and I was working full time. So it's just like it was nuts. So that work ethic is going to be a big part of it as well. Now, by work ethic, all I really mean by it is if you have an assignment, get it done right away. Or if you're going to make something, just get it done and then have your free time afterwards. And it sounds silly, but if I don't do it right away, I'll be like Angie, and I just put it, oh, I forgot about that. And that
Yeah,
doesn't
or
help.
set aside the time on your calendar, set aside the time. This is the time I'm gonna do my course every single week. I'm gonna sit down and work on this course, and then I'll buy another course and work on it. I say those things, and I absolutely don't do them all the time, but that is definitely the way to get through those courses when you purchase them.
Yeah, I'm just looking around my desk here and I'm going, okay, I put my projects like this in envelopes. Those are supposed to be videos that were done 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
I have to put them somewhere I see them, so I make sure that I do them. And it's so easy to let things fall through the cracks. Now, the whole initial part of what you want to do is, remember, it's that passion around what you want to make. Just make stuff and video it as you're making it. That's the easiest thing. Then if you have to worry about a YouTube, you have all these videos that you can
Yeah.
cut and paste. So
Share them on
everything you make,
Instagram, share them on Facebook, share them on TikTok, and bring those customers into your store. Just the process. People like watching the behind the scenes process.
yeah, when you're making something, you're designing something. This is silly. This is Kleenex box stuff, but if you're making stuff, like, then you come up with your own little design and how that's going to work, and then you figure out how to decorate it. Well, people want to know how you're doing this. How did you come up with the design? So, they'll watch you cut out little pieces of paper, glue them all together, and it looks like whatever. And then you take that and you measure it out and you make a more solid design. You show them how you're doing that. And then they show your test cuts and how that's working. And you talk about improvement and that kind of stuff. So that makes it easy. So if you videotape everything that you do, and you can do it just, with different places. Like, you can just, if you have a YouTube channel, just do it live and have the camera pointing out and then pull pieces out. And believe it or not, your content library will become, because I know people ask, how do you get people with eyeballs on your stuff? Well, one way is, if you're going to be a crafter and you want to get that stuff out there, find a summit to participate in. I mean, that's my big thing is, find a summit to participate in. Say, I want to be a speaker in this summit, and then just figure out how you can become one. And then you show what you're doing, and then you get tons of eyeballs. I think, some of the summits we've put on, I think the most we've had is 28,000 people with free tickets. That's a lot of eyeballs. And if you have something that they like and would love those designs, give one away for free during the summit and get them on your mailing list. And that's how you get eyeballs on it. That's just one way. There's tons of other ways, but that comes to mind. And that's sort of a silly thing, because I put on the summits, Angie does her summits, and there's quite a few other people, and just try and be a speaker for them, even if you don't have a big list. We love to have extra people on there that are new so that they can get their feet wet. It's that sharing thing that comes right back to.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to, like, promote a digital product shop, is to do some of those things. Collaborations with other creators is what that is, absolutely. So going back to what we talked about at the beginning, collaborating with other people, and that's a great way to do that. A summit where you give something away for free, teach something about a design, and you absolutely get them on your list, can sell them your other designs later.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, there's some Facebook advertising. I've seen some wonderful products from your host on Facebook. And, ooh, look at this. This is cool what she's doing. And, that type of stuff. So, Facebook ads will also bring in, but that's an expense. So if you can participate in something where it's not going to cost you anything, that's the way to start. Afterwards, you can add things like having ads somewhere. Or if you have an opportunity and someone says, "Oh, I'll put your logo on here if you write an article for me," do it. I mean, you just need to get the word out. And I know the first 1,000 people on your mailing list is a toughie. I felt I would never get there. I think it took a good year to get my first 1,000 people, but I just kept plugging in, joining in groups, going into communities, participating. You have to be visible in order to be seen. So I think that's the big thing here.
Yeah, that email list is so important. We mention it every episode, but those are your biggest fans. It doesn't matter if your email list is 100 people or 2,000. Those are your biggest fans. Those are the people that are going to come back again and again and purchase from you. Regardless of how big your list is, those are some of your most loyal people. And I would bet that marketing to that email list is going to make you way more money than just, shouting out on Instagram to whoever might find it via some algorithm.
Yeah, and it's that concentrated effort because people that have bought from you once are 90% likely to buy from you a second time. So if you have a way for, if they bought from you on Etsy and you come up with a new design, as long as you have their email address, find a way to get it. And of course you will, because those orders come through and you get the contact information, get them on your list, let them know when you've got something new coming out, and they're likely to buy from you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to do our commercial break really quickly. So, about in the middle of our podcast, we do a quick commercial break. And this one, unfortunately, Corey is feeling under the weather, but we're going to talk about one of her amazing digital products. And so, she has a digital product and it's called How to Create a Mockup. If you don't know what a mock-up is, that is when you are going to sell those digital designs and you don't want to physically make, say, the shirt to take pictures of and put in your Etsy store. Instead, you can use a mock-up where you digitally lay over the design over a shirt photo and use that mock-up in your Etsy store instead. So, if you are ready to show off your products or designs without making those physical prototypes, How to Create a Mockup by Corey George might just be for you. So I am going to add the link as well as a QR code for those on YouTube. And you can purchase her fairly new course right now. And the link is link.craftingcamps.com/mockup. And that's link.craftingcamps.com/MOCKUP. So if you're selling those digital products, highly recommend mockups. I feel like they save my life again and again with not having to take many, many photos.
Yes, I so agree with that. We constantly finding places to do templates. We use Canva a lot, and then we'll take a template and then take that template, such as Corey's, and then able to put our designs on it. So we're not having to go and say, let's photo shoot somebody wearing this, because you don't have to. You actually get the person in behind as well. So it's really cool thing to have.
Yeah, I like Corey's class because she does go into various software programs, including those that are online web based like Canva, all the way to like Photoshop. So if you wanted something more advanced and you already have an Adobe subscription, she goes into that. So I think it's a very good resource for those wanting to get into mockups.
And you will need it. Initially, you're going to stand out in the sunshine and have someone take a picture of you with whatever you have, or find a way to display it. So the mock-up course will be absolutely perfect.
All right, perfect. Okay, let's jump back into our questions. And I want to know more about retirement. So, how do you balance the demands of running a business with actually enjoying your retirement? Because we talked a little bit about how you were so busy before this started. So, I want to know how you balance that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We're really busy right now because we have a 4-part series webinars every Wednesday in September. So it's all the back end stuff. We're rushing around, making sure we've got the PowerPoints ready and this, that, and everything's set up. So we get busy with that. But that's a limit on your time while you're putting on an event. So you spend more time that way. For us, it's coming up with ideas. So in retirement, obviously, you want to have the time off to go do what you want. By having a digital business, this is really interesting. Last year, I took I think it was 4 weeks, and went to Italy, did a cruise around Italy, went to Naples and Venice and Rome and all that stuff and walked around. Well, it's a 9-hour time difference, so I had my laptop with me. So really enjoying the travel. So I was able to then connect with my daughter, talk about what we were doing, and she was creating. Then I would send her photos of things I saw that we could make. So you can combine it quite easily, depending, not on the cruise ship per se, because the Wi-Fi is just non-existent. But you wait till you're on land or in port and send those pictures. And you can still be present in your business even though you're away. You don't have to spend a lot of time paying attention to it, as long as you have a nice process and setup on how it can automate itself without you there. So it's a lot of pre-planning. And like this afternoon, this is let's see, what's the time? It's 1:36 in the afternoon here in Vancouver. So when this is over, I will go for a walk, go down to a cafe, do something else, and then I'll probably come sit back at my desk in the evening, because TV's not my favorite thing, and I will craft some stuff and videotape it. So I'm able to take that passion, work on it as much as I want, and then plan it out so that I also have the ability to enjoy what I'm doing. Now, this I'm a little more active than most people. I've had a bit of a health issue this year, what's called PMR, so had to take some steroid drugs called prednisone. That's what it's called. So it's kind of slowed me down a bit, but I'm getting there where they're getting me off of this. I play tennis, I golf, I bike ride, I swim, I walk. I used to run marathons. I don't do so much running these days. And I'm able to do 3 or 4 of those activities every day and do my crafting business at the same time. So you can combine it. And it's not that hard to do. You just have to say, okay, I will work on my business between this hour and this hour. And that's what you concentrate on, the stuff you have to get done. Go enjoy yourself and play. And then the things you love to do that are a little bit extras, you can do at any time, because that's your leisure. That is the thing you love to do. And that's why I was saying, take something that you're passionate about, because you're going to do it anyway. And then the business is just a little add-on part that you can do 1 to 2 hours a day. It doesn't take that much time in the beginning, unless you're a nut like me, who you're like, ooh, I can sit at my desk all day and do this, and this. But you don't have to. It depends on how far you want to grow. Is it for your lifestyle, where you would just love to make an extra $500 to $1,000? If that's plenty for you, no big deal. That 1 to 2 hours a day is all you need to do. There's no slugging down. When I worked for Cisco, our 40-hour work week minimum was 70 hours. So none of that anymore. You take the time off you want. You book in the time you need to work on the business. It could be 2 days a week, 3 days a week. It doesn't matter what it is. When you're selling on a place like Etsy, you don't physically have to be sitting at your desk and doing anything other than hoping that they are going to do the selling, but you're going to do some things in order to get people with their eyeballs on your Etsy shop and your designs. So that's where you're going to spend your time. And you don't have to do it all the time, all day long. And for me, I think Jennifer has over 45 employees now with her site. And I'm going, I don't want 45 employees. I want my daughter and myself and my youngest daughter and my husband working on it. And that's it. I don't want to go past that. So if we get too busy or too many things, we may find a virtual assistant to just do posting on our social media, because that's something that I really don't like to do. I really don't like it. So I found somebody that will do it. It's a good friend of my daughter's, who now lives in the Philippines. So it's not costing us a lot of extra. So it's a small expense for her to post every day. And she likes doing it because it's that extra income for her family in the Philippines, which has, of course, doesn't cost as much to live there. So you have to think about little things like that. So pretty well, I'm saying, if you hate doing it, find somebody that will do it cheaply enough that it doesn't cost you a lot, and you know you can cover it with extra sales. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, because the whole idea behind it is you need to work your passion with it. And as you get older, your brains did not leak out. You're still as smart, and you still have a lot of get go. Your body may tell you a little bit different, but I'll tell you, inside that head, I am still 16.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I will say I love the idea of doing it at whatever level you are comfortable with or fits with your lifestyle. So it could be, like you said, that you want an extra $500 a month. It could just be that you want this business as a creative outlet. So you just make things and put those up. And if they sell, they sell. If they don't, they don't, right? You just put them on Etsy. So that could be a level. There could be a level, like you said, where you get employees. I also do not want to be a Jennifer Maker. I'm just going to be honest. I do not want to manage 45 people. I'll just be
Me
honest with
neither.
you.
Me
So,
neither.
but if that is your passion, you could also go all the way up to that level. So there you can pick and choose with this, right? It's your business, it's your time, it's your retirement. Whichever level you want, that's what you can strive for. But I also feel like there are different levels of people. Like, I feel like I'm the person that when I retire, I will need some kind of outlet for an activity, something to work my brain a little bit, an excuse to learn new things. And this could be that for you. It can be an excuse to learn new crafts, an excuse to learn social media and all these other, how to make a Shopify store, how to list your items on Etsy, SEO courses. It could be kind of that outlet for you to learn new things as well.
Yeah, and a lot of concerns people have is, oh, technology is not my friend. And I think that brings up a lot of issues as well. Just find somebody to help you do it initially and show you a simple way to manage it yourself. And if you have a family member that can help you with it, that's great. If you don't know how to do it yourself, get on Skillshare. Find a way to learn to do it, but only focus on one little bit at a time. If you start thinking about all the technology, and she could probably attest to this, there is a ton of it when you start building your business of different types of technology. We must deal with 40 or 50 different things all the time. Focus on one and then build it to two. And don't let the technology scare you. It is actually your friend, makes it easier. It's a lot easier than building a store, making the counters and the displays and doing the displays. Just think about that. That is a lot of work. If you're doing it this way, if you don't know how to do a website, the website builders drag and drop stuff that they have these days works beautifully. I use something called Optimize Press, which is a little different from most. It's not drag and drop. We have to do a little programming in behind, but with my degree, I had to use it somehow. So, but
Had to
there's a
put
lot
that
out there.
PhD to work. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So all these drag and drop things with WordPress, hey, it is so easy. Oh, I want one of those. You drag it over and you drop it in and change your text. It's not a lot of work. You can do it. There are so many tools out there that try to make it so simple, and that's where you want to go with it. The website's going to be the first thing that you're going to have to create, and drag and drop. WordPress is free. Drag and drop. The big thing you have to do is think about the name you want to call your shop. And then you have to find a place to host it. And there's lots of really inexpensive places. I think of GoDaddy, My Domain. There's a whole bunch of them out there. And I don't think they cost that much, like $5 or $10 a month to host your website. So it's an expense, but well worth it. So you want that website. That's the big technology piece you want initially. And of course, your Etsy store, you have to set that up. That's another piece of technology. Once you get those two going, that is your starter place. And then you can start adding other things. You can have a long, long, long checklist. I see someone was asking the question, what is Skillshare? If you go to Skillshare.com, it is a place where there's tons and tons and tons of training. And there are some really good instructors in there. You pay an annual fee and you can access any of their training. Now, that training starts out generic and you get to know who those trainers are, and then you can start taking their courses. And then if you're especially in the crafting industry, take a look at Corey's and Angie's. And we don't have any on the business side, but we definitely have courses on how to use Design Space and that kind of stuff. But, when we mentioned Jennifer before, she has some. Abby Kirsten has a lot. There's tons of stuff out there. Catherine Learns Stuff, I think, is another one. Elena Anderson has something on the Cricut Joy, just that kind of stuff where you can learn some of the business elements. And to me, you are on a learning quest the second you decide to sell your crafts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say practice makes perfect when it comes to this stuff. So, my first website design or my first YouTube video or my first Instagram post is nowhere near where it is today. It's okay. We all start somewhere. Just start. You can perfect it later. That first website design may be horrible, but you can perfect it as you go along. Get something up, get that Etsy store running, and perfect it later. Once you learn better, you can do better. But otherwise, just practice makes perfect. Just play around with it.
Yeah, exactly. And the practicing is the important part. I looked at our initial logo and I'm going, oh my God, it was so ugly.
It's so
And
bad.
it's
It's
still,
always
it's
bad.
still on
Everyone
our
says that.
website.
Like every single person says that, and it is okay.
It is, when we started with it, and we thought it was pretty cool at the time. It's still on my business card because I refuse to throw business cards out. But and then I look at some of our old blog articles that are on our site. We've got close to 250 blog articles on the site. So some of the older ones got the really old logo and I'm going, oh my God, we had it pink, just sort of that type of stuff. But then you can see it graduate. Even on our YouTube channel, you can see the graduation from our first thumbnails all the way up, and we're morphing all the time. So we're always making changes. I decided that people didn't want to look at a 77-year-old on a thumbnail. So now I've got my granddaughter on there and it works out perfectly. It was just like that big change from where we first started. And, when we're doing your first videos or first anything, you are not going to be great at it unless that's your expertise, but you're not going to be great at it. Every time you do one, you do a little better and a little better. The whole idea, if you're going to start this business, you just have to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get my Etsy store and I'm going to get my website idea ready with my domain. So you've got the first building blocks in place, and then start making stuff and get it out there. If you don't get it out there right away, you could be procrastinating for years. I know I was in a group where we were talking about what we were selling and what we were doing, and I just followed the instructions and went ahead and I sort of jumped the queue. Everybody said, how did you jump out of that thing so fast and do so well? I said, well, I just did everything she told me every day I needed to do it. I had one person in my group, well, I still have to think about my avatar. And I mentioned this before. Don't worry about the darn avatar. You are the avatar because you're the one that's passionate about it. So you just really, really, really have to get going.
All right, so I have one more question for you, and this is a big one. What advice would you give someone considering starting a craft business after retirement? Is there something that you wish you would have known before you started, or like what advice would you give?
Yeah, and I think the first thing we did was we decided we wanted 100 products. Now, my advice is start with one or two and work hard on those two. Don't start out the door with 100 products because then people don't know which way to go. They want one or two to see what you're doing and then build from there. So always start very small. I mean, you could have big picture ideas and where you want to go with it, but go back, focus on one thing, and don't say this product is for everyone. You have to say to yourself, this product is for everyone who is like me. And then that just makes it easier. You have one or two things to go forward with and then find your audience at that point. We started with way, way, way too many. And then we also started, oh, we need to be on social media and Instagram. We need to be on Facebook. We need to be on LinkedIn. No. And, on YouTube and anything else that came along. We were trying to be on them all. Don't even do that. Pick one product, one social media, one website, and, just on Etsy. I always find Etsy the best place to get started. And then you'll find other places where you can sell it. You can sell it on Amazon. They have a design section. I think it's called Homemade. I haven't really explored it yet, but you can do it there and that's free as well. So you have all kinds of options, but just pick one that's going to work for you. And of course, pick something you're passionate about. Otherwise, you are not going to do it.
I love that. Starting simple. It's perfect. Okay, so if you are joining us for the YouTube live, in the live chat, you can ask questions for Bet. So drop any questions that you have, and I'm going to pull a couple that I saw. And the first one was, how did you advertise yourself so that people could find you? So, like in the beginning, any advertising tips?
Our advertising was collaborating with group owners. So I would go to a group and say, hey, I've got this free thing I would like to share with anybody. Can I share it in your group? If they said yes, I made a little banner for advertising for people to click on it and, just get on my list and get this free thing. So that was the biggest thing we did. And I remember my first lead magnet. We've improved it since, called Cricut Tips and Tricks. There was 25 in the thing, and I offered it to these different groups. They allowed me to advertise for it, and I actually got 1,200 people doing that on my list within a month by just finding the groups that would allow me to do that. So that was our big advertising thing.
That's a great tip, actually, because Facebook groups are huge. Okay, next question. Um, they're asking, are you an LLC? But I think they're basically asking about business registration. So, in the beginning, business registration advice.
Yeah, we LLC'd in the States, but you got to remember I'm in Canada, so we're an incorporated entity here.
Yeah, I was going to
So,
say it totally depends on your state and whether that would be even different states have different rules and it may be more expensive for you. You can just be a sole proprietor in your state rather than an LLC. So I would say check with small business association or something like that locally.
yeah, and then there are different rules on things you can deduct from your taxes here in Canada. Because I use a third of my living room, I get to deduct a third of my rent that the business can pay for, and different expense. All my craft supplies obviously are included in that. So different states have different rules. I was living in California, so LLC was perfect for us, although it costs us every year to keep that registration up. It was worth it because we had a lot of different deductions. And then, of course, with an LLC, anything that's left over is your personal income tax payment. So you just have to think about things like that. But I'm always about protecting yourself in every which way you possibly can.
All right, next one. This is really good. Did you start thinking about having a business after you retired or did you start planning it before you actually retired?
Well, this will create a little story because as I'm working as a professor, you have all these consulting opportunities off to the side, different things you're going to do. And of course, we mentioned in the beginning, I was writing books. I wrote a lot of books. They're still up on Amazon. There's no more physical books. I mean, they're old now, just like me. Um, but we were able to write books, sell those. So we always had something on the side going on. I owned an H&R Block franchise at one point and just hired people to look after it. So the entrepreneurial spirit was always there. But after retirement, I'm going, I can't stand the void. I'm not going to be able to sit around all day with my husband and do nothing. It would drive me insane. So I had to find something that I really like to do. And I thought if I'm going to do it, why not sell it as well? So that's kind of the the process. So, did we plan it before? Probably in my head, I've always planned to have my own business anyway. And, 5 or 6 years into retirement, I was taking odd jobs here and there. And I thought, no, let's plan to do our own business at this point. I hate doing the odd jobs. I really don't want to be someone else's employee. I want to do what I want to do. And I probably always had that attitude, even teaching. I want to do what I want to do. Just you want to break free from those chains. So, kind of a long answer, but yes,
Yeah.
we kind of did plan it, but didn't plan it.
No, that was perfect because I feel like I'm that same personality type, so I'm right there with you.
Mm, don't tell me what to do.
All right, next one. Do you have a niche that you lean towards when you're crafting, or do you make whatever you think would be fun to make?
I found that niching leads to success. I concentrate on paper. So that's part one. And part two, I concentrate on Cricut. So I use those two. So Cricut is our focus, and then everything around that paper crafts. And I can add other things to it. But if you start off really thin and narrow, it's easier to gain an audience, and then you can kind of expand from there. But you also have to focus on the fact that if you're going to have other people in there that are buying your designs, they like that kind of design that you're passionate about. So that becomes a focus on what you're going to do. Don't start saying, oh, well, I can sell my collage items. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to do cards. Oh, all of a sudden I'm going to do, oh, maybe I'll do some toll painting, or come over here. Oh, maybe alcohol ink marking will work. No, focus, focus, focus. And it's fun for us to make them. The Cricut is just a tool. So I show people how to use that tool to make what they're making, and then they can go and ahead and sell what they're making. And one thing about us is if you download our free designs, you are welcome to use them commercially. We don't care. We want you to be successful.
I feel like the niche is what you're selling, but that doesn't mean like you mentioned toll painting. As a retired person, you can enjoy toll painting on the side, not that it has to be part of your business, right? So I have hobby crafts that are just that's just what I do for a hobby, and then crafts that actually make me money. So there are two different things that happen, but you can still have things that you enjoy, and I feel like that also helps you a little bit with mindset, right? So you're not having to film that part. You're just doing it for fun. So you can still have the crafts that you enjoy and do for fun on the side.
Yeah, exactly. So, our whole thing is like we have a whole digital paper kit subscription we sell for $19 a year. Is not a lot of money. And every month you get a whole set of 14 digital papers, digi-stamps, all that kind of stuff. Everybody's going, how can so cheap? Well, we like making those. And with those digital papers, we then use the Cricut and show you how to use it. So it really can tie in. So it's that focus. Yes, we sell them, but on the other hand, we also teach people how to use them so that once they buy them, they can go use them for whatever they want. So it just, we have fun with it.
And this might be a good segue into talking about your community. You want to tell us a little bit about your community, and I'll put the link up.
Yeah, we decided we would start a circle community, which is really incredible. So I gave the link, and it's what we do in there is every week we're doing something like the webinar things we're putting on through September. The replays go into our community. We don't offer the replays for the free people, but they can join our community. And of course, we have like 7 days free trial on that right now. So for 7 days, you can go in and just grab those. We have past events. We put on tips and tricks. We discuss things. We show things. It's like a Facebook group supercharge, but the difference is that you actually get informed about what's going on. And if I post something, you know about it. Instead of in Facebook, if you post it, I think we have 15,000 in our group. And the last thing I posted, Facebook sent it out to 17 people. So it didn't work for me. So I needed a place where I could talk to people and have access to me to each week. We do something live, we make something, we have resources, we have all kinds of places for discussion. And you start there, and then you can decide you want a real membership with us, and then you get every event we ever put on is included. We just we don't sell it to you individually. You get part and parcel of that. So that's a lot of fun with the community, and it's nothing like having a place to discuss stuff. And we do it live some weeks, and other weeks we'll do the webinar series, and it's all part and parcel. And you get those, you ask questions, how can I do this, how can I, and we answer you right there. Easier than emailing us, because we get buried in emails sometimes, and it's easier than when you're in a summit asking a question because you've got all the speakers. This is a place where we go, and we are going to be inviting a lot of guest speakers in there. And that's just a leading question for Angie, but what will do?
Absolutely. I will come into the community. So if you all want to get your free trial in Bette's community, you can do that at link.craftingcamps.com/craft club. And that's all one word, CRAFTCLUB. For you people on YouTube, I just put a convenient QR code up in the corner, scan that, grab your free trial, and give it a try, because it sounds like a lot of fun, right? Getting to talk with other crafters. Okay, I did see another question. Hold on.
I was going to say, remember when you're going through all of this, before I answer this, is
Yes.
make sure you brand yourself. You'll see that, I've got my brand on my hat here. And I have a bad hair day, so I've got my hat on. But little things like this are so easy to do. Just pick your colors. Okay, being retired and being on a small budget, how and what machines did you start off with? I started with an Explorer Air 2. And I saved and saved and saved to buy that thing. It was $350. And that was a lot of outlay for me at that point. And so I had to decide, will I be able to afford to do this? I kind of had the groundwork all laid out, exactly where I was going to sell stuff and how much I would like to sell. And so did that budget. But I did save to get my initial machine. I didn't buy the best, and I didn't buy the top of the line. I started with something very small, and that is a really important part. You don't want to overspend. You do not want to take a loan out on your credit card. That is a 30% payback. If you don't pay it at the end of the month, you're paying 30% on top. That is an expensive way to go. If you can, find ways to save so that you can actually get what you want. And if you're using a credit card, just pay it right off.
And I feel like with your niche, with your niche is paper, I feel like that, like an Explorer Air 2 is all you need, right? So you also have to look at, what are you going to make to sell? Like, what is that thing you're going to make? What is that niche you're going to go after? And then you could say, like, okay, the Cricut Joy Extra, that's all I would ever need. I'm making super small paper crafts. I only need this super small machine. So it also depends on kind of what you're making. How, like, if I was going to make fabric stuff to sell and I wanted to cut it on a Cricut, I would go with a maker with a rotary blade, right? Like, I would go more expensive. But you don't have to go more expensive. More expensive is not always better, depending on what you're making, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I use the latest Maker 3 now, and I think I've worn it out because I lift the lid and it goes crack, 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 crack. I work the heck out of it, but I don't use all the fancy tools with it. I use most of the tools that I would use with my Explorer, which is really interesting. I'll use the other stuff just to give a demo. And when I bought my first machine, there was no Joy, so I had no choice.
Yeah,
Joy is great.
That's my favorite machine right now, is that Cricut Joy Extra. So I always have to talk about
I just got one, and I'm going, oh, I'm going to be able to do a lot of stuff on this, and I don't have to, pull out the big machine to do that.
Yes, it's so good. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have time for. So I wanted to thank you, Bette, for coming on and being our retirement expert. You have been amazing, and hopefully people get inspired to start their craft business after retirement. So thank you so much for joining us today, or me today, since Corey's not here.
There's no Corey.
Yes. All right, so next episode, We are very excited. We are going to be live from Printing United. Printing United is a huge printing trade show, and we are going to be learning all about trends in the printing industry. And we are going to come to you live with Caesar as our guest, and we're going to
Ooh.
chat from Printing United. So this is going to be live on YouTube on September 12th, and it's going to be on your favorite podcast network on September 16th. If you don't want to miss those, confused about the dates, sign up for our newsletter, description below the video, or the podcast notes to get reminders. And as always, if you have a friend that is retired and wanting to start a craft business, text them right now with this episode and tell them Bette is an amazing person and did an amazing job and that they need to listen to this episode. So be sure to send this to your friends and, of course, rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. So thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, Bette, for hanging out with me today. It was so much fun.
It has been a pleasure and so much fun to talk to everyone.